Becoming an actress is very important to Kelly, and you will not break her heart by telling her she can't do it.
All right, Peg, in that case, you get a job to help pay for it.
Poor Kelly.
In the world of sitcoms, the shows themselves typically revolve around a family that love and support each other. Or at least they did back in the 80s and 90s. Back before shows started taking the generic sitcom format and flipping it on its head. And one of the first sitcoms to really take the approach of every character is a truly terrible person was Married with Children. The Bundy family is seen routinely taking Al's hard-earned money and impulsively spending it while not thinking of their own well-being in the slightest. So let's take a look at the man who scored 4 touchdowns in a single football game and see how broke is Al Bundy. And consider this your official spoiler warning for Married with Children, a show that's been over almost as long as I've been alive. And hey, while we're here, comment down below what you'd like to hear me talk about next. It definitely helps the algorithm not hate my channel. This video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is a game with tons of champions, bosses, and as a result, tons of ways to play. Couple that with years worth of content and consistent updates and you've got one heck of a game. So the game takes place in the middle of an epic struggle that's gone on for thousands of years, where you can fight kings and dark wizards as well as meet 13 unique factions such as dwarves, orcs, the undead, and my personal favorite, skinwalkers. I kind of play this game like I play Pokemon, where I shower my favorites with love and levels. In Yaga, the Insatiable is definitely my favorite. I mean, look at him, what a good boy. He's definitely my main attacking force. But I have other champions like Gallic, who raises everyone's HP, and Hyria, who can get sacrificed at the end here so Gallic can end the battle in style. What I really like about this game, aside from the crazy high number of factions and ways to play it, is that I can pull this game up on my second monitor while I'm editing. So you've probably seen a bunch of Raid ads in the past, but what you've probably missed out on is that just last month, Raid put out their biggest update ever,
the Doom Tower.
With 120 floors, a bunch of secret challenge rooms, and 12 bosses. Honestly, this is probably the best time you could possibly start playing the game. If you want to start playing and want a huge head start, check out the link in the description down below, and you'll get a free Void Champion, an XP booster, 50 gems, some energy refills, and even an ancient shard as soon as you get in-game. You'll find your extra rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. Now, let's get back to the video. Al Bundy was born November 7th, 1948 in Chicago. We don't know a ton about his childhood, but we know that for the most part it was relatively happy. At some point during his childhood, Al learned a valuable lesson from his father, to not just get mad if someone wrongs you, but to also get even. He demonstrated this lesson by signing his father up to go to the Korean War, where his father was gravely injured, being wheelchair bound and only able to communicate with a series of beeps for the rest of his life. But Al knew that his father was proud. We also know a few things from Al's time in high school. For starters, we know that Al scored 4 touchdowns in the 1966 All-Championship game.
But the best part is, Peg, they're dedicating it to the most famous Pokai football legend. A hint, 4 touchdowns in one game.
But a little before that is when Al would take the job that we see him working throughout the entirety of the show, a women's shoe salesman. He got this job after a suggestion from his mother and to pay off the car that we see him driving throughout the series, the Dodge. There are, however, a few weird things about the Dodge. For starters, a lot of the time when the Dodge was shown in the early seasons, the car used wasn't always a Dodge. But there's also some weird timeline things that don't fully add up. Like the idea that he got the car before his career-defining high school game where he scored 4 touchdowns in one game, but the car also being called a 1971 Dodge. So we'll kind of have to combine these facts together. We'll work under the assumption that his parents took care of the down payment and that Al would pay off whatever the car actually was. We'll just be giving him the equivalent price of a 71 Dodge. We know that he bought the car used, so we'll be taking 20% off the car's value to account for this. This means that when he bought it, the car would have been worth around $2,350. We'll have his parents put $500 down and he'll take over the payments for the next 2 years. Which is a great transition to talk about how we're going to be starting with our math. And I say starting because this will change a few times throughout the video. At this point, we'll be starting with Al's salary, subtracting the cost of his car payments each year, and having him put away 20% of what's left into a bank account. I'm not having Al pay taxes because, well, it's stated pretty bluntly that Al doesn't pay taxes. So for all of our math throughout this entire video, we'll have him not paying taxes. As for what Al's making for his salary, we know that in the episode "'Tis the Time to Smell Roses," that Al is offered his yearly salary, $12,000. That episode takes place in 1993. Today, that would be almost $21,500. We'll be adjusting that number each year that Al's working as a salesman. And while Al is still in high school, we'll have him working only 20 hours a week instead of 40. The timeline once again gets kind of messy around when Al would graduate. Kelly isn't born for a few more years, so we need a reason that Al wouldn't continue his football career. And fortunately, or unfortunately I guess, we do have a pretty good reason for the end of Al's time as a football player. We learn in an episode that Al on graduation day tried to jump over a Mercedes but missed by 2 inches. While he may not have sustained a career-ending injury, it probably would have caused him to lose any scholarship that he may have gotten. And thus, Al Bundy would continue his career as a woman's shoe salesman. We'll have him move out of his parents' house after he finishes high school. We'll be bumping up his work hours to full-time as well as having him pay for a small apartment. We'll be having him spend around $400 per year in rent for the next few years. Finally, in 1971, Al and then girlfriend Peg would spend some time together that would result in the unexpected pregnancy and birth of their first child, Kelly. We also know from the episode 16 Years and What Do You Get that Al and Peggy get married this year as well. This year we'll be changing up how we're going to be doing our math to reflect some of these life changes. From this point onward, we'll be starting with Al's salary, which will still be adjusting each year, then taking off rent or house payments. We'll be starting with that because we know that he's never missed a payment in the past. After that, we'll be having Al spend 95% of what's left on his wife and kids. Or at least that's how much they'll be taking. We'll have him put the remaining 5% into a bank account, earning 2% interest annually. But we still won't have Al paying taxes. Coming out of 1971, Al would have $2,524.85. The following year, 1972, we'll have the Bundys buy the home that we see them in throughout the series. We know that they live in some Chicago suburb, but we don't know exactly where. The home that was used as the home in the show is located in Deerfield, a Chicago suburb. Today, a similar house in that area can go for around $449,000. That would have been worth $65,239 back in 1972. But we know that the Bundys' house isn't exactly in great shape, as well as several other factories, including the fact that it was built on a Native American landfill. We'll be having the home be worth a little less than half, $30,000. We'll have Al put down $2,500 as a down payment and take out a 30-year mortgage on the home. With that, he would be paying $236 per month or $2,832 per year. Coming out of 72, the Bundys would have $78.57. A few years later, in 1974, the Bundys would give birth to their second child, Bud. We can then jump ahead a few years again to 1978. This is the year that we'll have the family buy Peggy, the car we see her drive in like 2 episodes before it disappears. We'll have them put $100 down on the car and pay $432 per year for the next 5 years. After another short fast forward, we reach the beginning of the series, 1987. There's not a ton in the show that'll be a drastic impact on Al's bank account. Eventually, in 1992, Kelly and Bud would both get jobs. We'll be adjusting our math a bit, but the next year, 1993, is kind of weird. This is the year where the Bundys briefly adopt Peggy's cousin, Seven. He's only in the show for a brief time before disappearing and showing up as missing on a milk carton the following season. Which is, dark, honestly, even for the Bundys. For this year, we'll be having Peggy and Seven spending 80% of Al's leftover salary, and from this year onward, we'll be having Peggy alone spending 75% of Al's remaining salary. The series ends in 1997, so we'll give you a couple different numbers to end this video with. How much would Al be worth at the end of the series, and then how much would he be worth today if nothing major were to change? So, in 1997, at the very end of the series, Al would have $1,294.52 in his bank account, and his home would be worth $119,321.55. So, when we last see them, the Bundys are worth $120,616.07. If nothing major changes by the end of 2020, the Bundys would have $8,128.02 in their bank account, and their home would be worth $206,438.67. Which means today that Al and Peggy would be worth $214,566.70, which is honestly about what I expected. They have little to no actual cash, and it's just the fact that they were able to buy their home back when housing prices were much more reasonable that the Bundys have any kind of net worth at all. But anyways, this has been 10K Bill, and thanks for watching. Comment down below what you'd like to hear me talk about next. Support us on our Patreon if you like this show, want to see your name up on the screen, or even just see my videos a little early. Follow me on Twitter at 10KBill to yell at me about anything I may have missed. And of course, make sure you subscribe for all your entertainment-related content.